Up noon here on Three Man Front on this Thursday. Already a really busy show. Rodney Orr, Tider Insider. Interesting breakdown. His takeaways, his thoughts. First time we talked to Rodney since the Tides lost to Florida State in Tallahassee last weekend. Rob Pate giving his thoughts on Auburn in Waco, what he saw, especially from the defensive backs and moving forward. All of that available at the Three Man Front podcast at joxfm.com. The Southern Gentleman, Brett Norsworthy. Don't want to miss that. Coming up at 12:30, he'll give his I Ain't Scared bold prediction. Prediction number 3 of the young college football season, so don't miss Brett. Always entertaining chat.
Yeah, he's 1-1 on that. Last week he had Virginia Tech against South Carolina. That did not.
So did Landrum. Plus the points.
Well, it was 10-8 for what felt like half the game, so...
What did we get that in the office football pool? 8.5, I think. Yeah, came close.
Yeah, very close.
Don't get points for close.
Last night, Kalen DeBoer on his radio show had a couple of interesting things to say, including losing Jeremiah Beeman, the defensive lineman who was filling in for Tim Keenan last week against Florida State. He is done for the year. He had, it appears to be a knee injury, so he is done. He says that you're going hard at practice. These guys are practicing. You're trying to go good versus good. You're trying to play the speed of the game. The same thing that happened to Tim. It's innocent stuff. It's physical. It's football. It's in the trenches down there. Legs get tangled up and stuff. So next up at that position, you'll either see London Simmons, freshman, Isaiah Fega from Central Phoenix City, or the sophomore Edric Hill. Those are the 3 guys that will be next guy up on the defensive line. Also on the radio show, DeBoer says we're all pissed off about what happened on Saturday. He says we are, just flat out. That's what it is, starting with me and to our staff and to our team. There's only one thing you can do is learn from it, and you have to respond. He was also asked about what he thinks is the Bama standard. That was one of the callers. And this was a direct quote from Kalen DeBoer. I don't want to ever come off what the Bama standard is all about, and the expectations are wanted in this program. Don't come off of that. That's to be great to be for us is to be our best. For us internally is to be our best. If we are our best, things will take care of itself. Kind of a word salad there, but
yeah,
I think I understand what he's saying. We have the talent. We just have to be the very best. It's kind of like in baseball, you'd always tell people, hey, look, just be like the back of your baseball card. Just be your average, and you'll be fine. Well, Alabama's got the talent the last 2 years, but for whatever reason, it's not
I don't think you need
W's.
to remind your fan base you have the talent. I think that's in part where a lot of the criticism is coming from. What, last year you're a number 1 team as far as returning talent by Pro Football Focus. This year you're in the top 3.
They were number 1 again this year, weren't they?
Talent is not an issue. When was the last time talent was an issue at Alabama?
It's been a very long time, probably early 2000s, about 25 years.
So I appreciate him saying that, but yeah, everybody's well aware. Your fans that are upset, some disgusted, mad. That's where a lot of it comes from.
The Texas-Ohio State game over the weekend drew 16.6 million viewers. It was the most watched Week 1 game in college football history. It's a huge number. Last weekend was the first Week 1 to feature 4 games with at least 10 million viewers. Alabama FSU was the 3rd most watched game of the weekend at 10.7 million viewers. Meanwhile, ESPN's College Game Day had its most watched episode of all time. So they send Lee Corso out on a high note. 4 million viewers for College Game Day.
They usually average around 2.5, right?
Fox's
2.5.
Fox's Big Noon Kickoff had 2 million viewers. So they were half of what ESPN drew.
I will say this about the Alabama numbers. When the day comes that Alabama loses a game like that and it's not one of the most watched games, that's when you know that Alabama has officially fallen off because people stopped wanting to hate watch them losing games like the Florida
I thought it
State.
canceled out because Alabama fans that were so disgusted while watching the games, they checked out.
Maybe so. What happened in the second half? I missed it.
Bill Belichick's debut at North Carolina was watched by 6.1 million viewers. That's a 39% increase than the last Labor Day which was Florida State and Boston College.
Well, if those 6 million, they watched that game, that's 6 million viewers you'll never get back if you're North Carolina. Not this season.
I was about to say that peaked at kickoff,
Oh.
right, for viewership.
More than 20 billion, with a B, minutes of college football was consumed over the Labor Day weekend on television. That far surpassed the previous record of 14.5 billion minutes in 2023. So Labor Day weekend, a huge weekend for college football.
NIL.
It has to be.
It's killed sports.
So according to ESPN and ABC, and we just told you that Fox had the number one game of the week, which was Texas-Ohio State, Notre Dame and Miami was the number one rated on the ESPN family of networks at 10.8 million. Alabama, Florida State, 10.7. LSU, Clemson, 10.4. Bill Belichick's first game at 6.1. Virginia Tech, South Carolina drew 5.4 million. That was a very good number. Georgia Tech, Colorado, 3.7 million. And rounding it out, Nebraska's win against Cincinnati was viewed by 3.3 million people.
That was over the weekend. Did you give the Auburn and Baylor?
Do not have that number.
Okay. Being a Friday night, I would think that it did a pretty good number.
Yeah, it was the biggest game that night.
The whole weekend had just huge numbers.
That's great. That's good. That's good for all of college football when it comes to media rights deals and revenue share and whatever that means potentially in the future as far as payouts.
And unfortunately, bad news for all of the people that hate the direction college football is going, because clearly the popularity is only continuing to increase, similar to the NFL a handful of years ago. I'm not watching the NFL anymore. Well, Shield's doing just fine.
The tongue-in-cheek comment, that's where I was going with that is, oh, well, I'm not watching anymore. Well, more people are watching.
And you're still watching too, even if you're complaining.
Yes, you are.
It was interesting because the average number for game day was 4 million, but the final 15 minutes when he made his final headgear pick was 5.7 million. So almost 6 million was tuned in at the very end of Corso's run at game day.
I'm sorry I missed it in real time.
Hey, good way for him to go out. Got all of his picks right.
How do you think Corso spends his weekend this weekend? Just hang out, watching ball?
I was about to say, do you watch it in the morning? Do you watch College Game Day? Or do you not watch College Game Day?
Too soon?
Well, it's just one of those things, right? He's been doing this every Saturday morning for the last how many decades of his life? Like, maybe you want to take a Saturday off. I don't know.
Lots of things to do in Orlando.
I just wonder if he'll ever come back for like a one-off.
Yeah.
Or if this will be it. Like, never again.
Man, I hope this doesn't sound disrespectful. I hope this is it. I think that was
This is a great way to send him off.
Yeah.
I agree. But who knows? Maybe you bring him back for the playoffs or something, or the national championship edition of game. I don't know.
Not to give another pick, though. You want to ride off in the sunset with all of your picks hitting.
If Florida State makes it back to the playoffs, something tells me that they might get him back for that.
Yeah.
I just found the Auburn Baylor number. It was 2.83 million.
Okay. That's a good number.
So more people watch Nebraska's win against Cincinnati than Auburn's win.
That's right. They want to see Dylan Raiola.
Do you see what he changed his picture to on social media?
No.
It's the picture of Patrick Mahomes walking down the hallway at Arrowhead.
Is it really?
Like his pregame. Yeah, it's like
That's
just
hilarious.
just one of those like pregame pictures they get of the players as they arrive. Yeah, he changed it to that.
That's awesome.
I'm glad he's embracing it.
I mean, you should. I think at this point, you might as well.
It's just funny all the little things that people are picking up on. Like he's even doing the little finger wag now on the field that Patrick Mahomes does and stuff.
He's pulling his pads up the exact same way.
It's hilarious.
Because no one does that.
And his comment of, well, it's not the Lord's fault that he made me look like this other guy. It's like, buddy, God didn't give you that haircut. Just saying.
That's a good point.
Someone asked him, what's the thought that the suits and the networks are happy to not have a Bama dominating year in, year out, and the success is spread around. I would think they like it. We keep getting told that the college football playoff and different locations, we were told that they wanted to spread it out geographically. We've seen how that works out. Go back to SoFi, Santa Clara. That was probably the one that most people complained about that Alabama played in. We're going to get a Super Bowl there this year, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that was just bad. You had two Southern teams playing for the national championship, and they're flying to San Francisco. And it was horrible weather. It was terrible.
Going back to Dylan Raiola, this text says he's definitely trolling Patrick Mahomes. It's embarrassing. I agree. Someone asking, why should college athletes not pay taxes on NIL? Cannot finish what they followed that with, but they think that that's messed up. I agree. I got on my soapbox. I'm going to get on it again, but the guy that can barely afford to take his family to the directional school game or weekend, the lettuce weekend, yet the kid that, he's working a 40-hour plus week, doing his best, feed his family, offer him something nice. The family goes to a game, and you got some kids making upwards of, million plus, and they're not having to pay taxes, yet he is. The hardworking dad is. I don't agree with it. You don't have to agree with it, but that's what's going to happen. They passed it in the state of Georgia. So now in the state of Alabama, don't you get on board? Because that's a recruiting advantage.
Absolutely. And again, I know they're not thinking about it this way. And if we could all get paid and not have taxes taken out, obviously we'd all take the bigger paycheck. Again, it's just one of those things. What kind of a precedent does that set for the future when you're getting all this money and, oh man, this is great. I don't have to pay the government on any of this. And then what happens when you go get a real job and you realize, oh, half of this is not going into my bank account. What's the deal here?
Going back to Alabama, let's just let the next few weeks play out, says this one listener. There's no one else Alabama could have hired that was more qualified or could do better. Alabama was and is not getting Sark, Lanning, or Dabo from their current schools. Gruden can't coach in college, and Kiffin lost to Kentucky and Florida with the best roster in Ole Miss history. Collins from Pell City. Thank you, Collins.
I will say this, Collins, and it never got to that point, but it would have been very fascinating if Alabama was interested in Dabo Swinney back when Nick Saban retired. But Alabama was not interested in Dabo Swinney. That would have just been fun to see if Dabo would have come home. Because if anybody in South Carolina tells you that they weren't getting a little bit frustrated.
Anytime mama calls, it's, I think you would at least have to consider it if you're Dabo.
But let's just be honest, the way Dabo has not embraced the new world of college football, that has gotten a lot of people in South Carolina a little bit frustrated. Now, he's got a great team this year, and I still think that they will be in the college football playoff despite the loss to LSU. But
Are you going to be okay being relevant every 3 years? Not that they weren't relevant last year, and they're relevant this year. But no, I don't see that going over very well at Alabama. Or, for that matter, really anywhere in the SEC. He's been able to get away with it, and I hate because we have friends on that staff that I think a lot of, but part of the reason he's been able to get away with it is the conference they reside in.
That helps.
It can mask a lot of things when you're taking on Virginia.
It helps. You might have the opposite question, right? Of with Kalen DeBoer, it's great. You can beat the good teams and the good coaches, but you can't beat the average ones. With Dabo, it might be the opposite. Why are we – all right, great, we're beating Missouri and Mississippi State every year, but why can we not beat Georgia? Why can we not beat LSU?
As far as potential shakeup with the Alabama coaching staff, I think this is more likely, and you guys would probably agree, because this is typically how it goes if a team and a program starts to struggle. This text reads, DeBoer has to make the tough decision mid-year or at the end of the year and fire Womack in the defensive staff. Every coach worth his weight has to be able to make that tough decision and be a CEO. Burns should force that since we know we can't pay the $69 million buyout. Trust your eyes.
I'd be much more nervous if I was Kane Womack or Freddie Roach right now.
Yeah, a lot of people not happy with Freddie Roach.
No.
I'm just taking my situation now and what even the guy on that staff that's last in line to get the paycheck. I don't think I'd be stressing a whole lot if I was any of those guys. God bless America.
True. There's worse things in life than getting paid to not do your job.
Don't pay me for another 2 years on my guaranteed deal where I can collect myself, spend more family time, maybe take up golf, and then I'll get back into coaching and land another lucrative deal.
Yep. America.
How many of y'all can do that? Not me. Uncle Jerry from Hayden, I think the bonehead is feeling the heat on his buttocks or buttocks. And will either change his buddy ways with the players or he will be fired and we hire that big old Lane, RTR, the number 4 in life. Who's Ole Miss going to hire when Lane goes to Tuscaloosa?
Pete Golding.
How many Alabama fans would kill to have Pete Golding as their defensive coordinator right now?
So you kind of wish he was back after you dogged him all those years.
You know what? I think it'd be perfect. You guys go get Gruden.
That'd be fun.
That'd be a perfect fit.
That would be fun.
Going from Lane to Gruden.
Both coach the Raiders.
Maybe let him have a personal email, not a school email.
Both had a fondness for cheerleaders.
Does he do yoga?
I would like to know this. This is not to trash somebody, says this listener. Who was the last coach within a span of 10 games to lose 4 games to double-digit dogs? Thanks. Ears Whitworth? I don't know.
It's a good question.
I would garner a guess and say it's the first time it's ever happened.
You got to be really good to be a double-digit favorite, especially on the road, even against a team like Florida State. Yeah, I'm with Pat. I've this is the first time it's ever happened.
One, how many other teams right after it had happened a couple of times would continue to get the benefit of the doubt of being a double-digit favorite in those situations?
And then not to mention the fact that the coach would have the opportunity to still be employed to do it.
Correct. That is also a good point.
I mean,
you might be onto something.
A good friend of mine, and I know he laughs every time I bring it up, but Jack Crow, head coach at Arkansas, lost to the Citadel, and then he was fired. And it was like the first or second game of the season. There's just certain things that just don't let happen. All right, we'll continue with your texts, your calls. Bottom of the hour, Brett Norsworthy from WHBQ in Memphis.
1222 here on Three Man Front. Lance from Conrad, Molly, and Pat. A lot of your texts. We've gotten to a lot of those texts. There's still more that we will get to as the show progresses. Coming up at the bottom of the hour, 1230, the Southern gentleman, Brett Norsworthy. We will talk about the Alabama Crimson Tide, his thoughts on the Tide. I know that he was high heading into the season. And what he thinks about, I don't know if you call it a trap game if you lost to this particular team in the sleeper game last year, but Ole Miss traveling on the road in a payback game and trying to get some revenge, exact some revenge, if you will, on Mark Stoops and the Wildcats. We're coming up tonight. We do have the NFL. We got Cowboys and Eagles. There's no better place in town to enjoy sports and music than the Finnick. The Finnick's your front row seat to the best entertainment. Massive screens, explosive sounds from every seat in the house. The experience is bigger, brighter, and it's bolder. Their new restaurant menu, it's certainly worth cheering for. They got great wings that are going to win MVPs, wood-fire grilled burgers stacked like your favorite fantasy team. Steaks so good, you're going to forget there's a game on. Shareables are great as well, and don't forget about the handcrafted cocktails, the specialty cocktails that relate to your favorite team. The Finnick's new 6-day schedule, it includes live acoustic acts Wednesday through Friday from 5:30 to 8, followed by live bands at 10 o'clock on Friday, Saturday, Sundays, and Mondays dedicated to sports. No live music to get in the way. Get your front row seat right there at the Finnick. Great place to go. Enjoy music, sports with friends. We can't wait to see you there. 1630 2nd Avenue South near Railroad Park.
So you remember a couple of days ago, you had the back and forth between Mike Gundy and Dan Lanning in regards to the rich and the not so rich and what you spend on NIL, things of that nature. Well, it was interesting this morning. Pete Nakos, he did an article on On3 because the $40 million roster number, that's been thrown out there. And remember Texas back in the spring, that was rumored. They were spending $40 million on the roster, things of that nature. So it was interesting because Pete Nakos did a deep dive on what a real number is. The closest number to the $40 million, according to Pete Nakos, based on his reporting, is that Ohio State is expected to be around $35 million for their roster. Now, Texas Tech is up there as well, around $28 million. We've already talked about the fact that Steve Sarkisian shot down the idea that Texas's roster was $40 million. Between 15 and 20 college football programs have hit the $20 million threshold on rosters in 2025, according to Pete Nakos. And those rosters include Ole Miss, South Carolina, Texas A&M, and Notre Dame. Now, Chris Lowe, when he was still at ESPN, he wrote a story, and he was quoted Hugh Freeze in saying that Auburn's roster was going to be north of $20 million. It's been reported that LSU spent around $18 million this last year through the transfer portal. And we bring all this up because A.J. McCarron does a podcast with Chris Stewart, and he was talking about how Alabama's got all these problems with NIL, that they're not one of the richer schools when it comes to that. And according to this article, they believe that Alabama's number is pushing the $20 million mark, which would put them in the same category of the Auburns, Notre Dames, A&M, South Carolina, and Ole Miss from an NIL perspective. So if you get a chance, you go to On3 and you can just do a search on Pete Nakos because it's a very long article, but I think it's very well done because it kind of puts in perspective where the NIL number really is. Because when you have Gundy running his mouth about, you know, the haves and the have-nots in college football and what's being spent, things of that nature, it's also an accounting type deal. You know, where you're putting this number in this column to say that you are spending X number of amount on a roster. But go and check out Pete Nakos' article because he does give you some really good hardcore numbers in regards to what some of these upper echelon programs really are spending.
Well, and that's kind of the gamble. Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin, he gambles every single year. It's worked out for the most part. They still haven't gotten to an SEC title game or made an appearance in the college football playoff, but that program's a lot better than the way that he found it, and they're staying competitive and relevant in the conversation. For Alabama, you committed and doubled down with your current roster. Now, you were able to get the Isaiah Hortons and some of the other spot pieces, if you will, to come in and complement, but you've invested in your roster. A lot like Hugh Freeze has done at Auburn. So now from an influential booster donor standpoint, not only do you have that $69 million, but you've also got $20 million that's dedicated, in part your money, to these current players. Which do you look at it as, well, we got to spend more, get more of those type of guys, or my money's not paying off, or no, we got the right guys, we just have the wrong guys coaching them?
Did you notice one school that I did not mention of all of those schools? It's the school that paid the most reportedly for their quarterback.
Michigan?
Michigan.
Yeah. So Bryce got everybody else's money.
Maybe. But Michigan is not mentioned anywhere in this article for the exception of how much they spent to get Bryce Underwood.
Bryce and Yaxel Lindeborg got all of
Pretty
Michigan
much.
football's money.
Maybe they pulled a loophole like the Steve Ballmer story that was going around yesterday. Maybe they pulled one of those loopholes.
Yeah, very much so. All right, when we come back, we'll go to Memphis, Tennessee. We will talk to our good friend Brett Norsworthy as he will educate us on this Kentucky Ole Miss game coming up this weekend and what he thinks about Alabama. Is the dynasty officially dead? That's next on Three Man Front.
1233, Landrum, Pat, Conrad, Molly. Our extended family includes this gentleman, the Southern gentleman, Brett Norsworthy, who is a very talented radio host, sports talk show host there in Memphis, also a part of the pre- and post-game show, part of the Ole Miss Football Radio Network. Rebels taking on Kentucky and Lexington this weekend, and Mr. Brett Norsworthy joins us now on Three Man Front. Brett, how are you?
I'm doing well, Landrum. Good afternoon. I'm in Poseyville, Indiana, making my way from St. Louis to Lexington. Eventually, I'll get there on Friday. But tomorrow morning, I'm going to go to the Louisville Slugger plant and to the Muhammad Ali Museum in Louisville.
Well, most importantly, you went 2-1 in St. Louis this week, right? If I'm not mistaken.
I did. Got thumped on Monday of Labor Day and then won 2-1 and 5-1. Didn't win the aggregate score against Oakland, but the Athletics. They're the homeless Athletics.
Yeah.
But got the 2 out of 3 against the A's. Nick Kurtz is something to watch, guys. Man, his opposite field power is incredible. He don't have to try to pull a single ball. The Athletics, they have something for a young team, but they also have that owner that really doesn't know where they want to play and can't ever seem to get it right.
Well, I look forward to your full report on your lunch that you had yesterday. So you can just text me that information that I need to know.
It was fantastic. Afternoon spent on the hill was really good. My cardiologist probably wouldn't approve, but I'm not really that worried about what he approves.
All right. Before we talk about the big game coming up in Lexington between the Rebels and the Wildcats as we get the SEC schedule underway in the conference, let's talk about what happened down in Tallahassee. I know that you were covering the Georgia State game and Ole Miss, but I know you probably had an opportunity to kind of in the corner of your eye kind of keep up with what's going on. But what was your impressions of what took place in Tallahassee, and is there area for concern for people like Conrad moving forward?
I watched it in full after the fact. I didn't get to watch a lot live, as you said, but I watched it in full. And I know everybody has discussed this week. I'm not first. I'm not piling on. But there has never, hardly ever, been this word used around Alabama. You can say disorganized. You can say uninspired. But never, ever around a Crimson Tide team, especially around with Coach Saban, not one time, could you use the word soft. And I think that's the most damning word in sports for your team. And for one game, it looked it. Yeah, through that first punch. That was it. And that was stunning to see that, and stunning to see Castellanos really back it up. He went full Joe Namath all summer around Super Bowl III, and he backed it up. And being able to run the ball. What is the Alabama identity? What do they do well? What can they do well? I thought Ty Simpson probably had a pretty good first day if you just looked at the stat line, but we know it's more to it than that. And it just the team identity and that soft word is just stunning to everyone.
And we've been rehashing this, as you can imagine, here on this show since it all went down and we came on the air live on Monday. But from what you saw from Alabama, what you didn't see, how much of that is fixable? Because I don't know if soft is fixable.
I don't know that it is, Landrum. And now, me included, me at the top of this list, we know so much all of June and July and August, and then we play one game, and now I don't know anything.
Right.
I mean, one game, 60 minutes of playing time, and I'm worried about what I think I know, and I'm really worried about the unknown around Alabama, because the sideline comportment, it didn't last year, and now after 14 games, 9-5, and Ray Perkins after 14 games replacing Coach Bryant was 8-6. It looks more Ray Perkins than it does anything else.
So you went back and you watched the game, and this is what I'm curious about, because you've been around this conference for a long time, and you don't have a dog in the hunt between Florida State and Alabama. So I'm just curious, as you're watching the game.
Oh, yeah, I do. I'm for Alabama every time they play anybody but Ole Miss.
Okay. Well, at least you're honest there. As you're watching that game, is it more so that Florida State looked really good, or the fact that Alabama was not performing up to the level that it should, and it made Florida State look a lot better than what they really are?
I think it's a lot more the latter, and it's another thing. I couldn't stand it to hear it during the Coach Saban years. Whoever first coined the phrase "Bama privilege." Let me tell you what it was. It was a powerhouse juggernaut. There was no thumb on the scale by ESPN or anyone else. Everything Alabama got in the Coach Saban years, they went out there and they took it and they deserved it. But we are now at a point where if we come to that crossroads, we don't give any privilege to Alabama going forward. They've got to re-earn it. And I know a lot of people that were sitting in the stands Saturday, including my nephew, who was a 4-year student manager for the Alabama football program, that loves it as much as anybody on earth. He texted me in 14 games, everything Coach Saban built has been squandered.
Brett Norsworthy joining us here on Three Man Front, joins us as all of our guests do on the Higginbotham Hotline. On the other side of the state, the Auburn Tigers, they went on the road in week 1, took on a Baylor team in Waco. Your thoughts on what you saw from Jackson Arnold, what you thought you saw from maybe Hugh Freeze and learning from past mistakes, and now what you think about Auburn moving forward?
Landrum, I've been very bullish on Auburn all the offseason that Coach Freeze would get it right. I know he can coach. I know he can game plan. I know he can draw up great schemes and ways to go out there and win. And he has finally gotten his go quarterback, and he went last Friday night. That was impressive against Baylor. Now, it wasn't a lot in the passing game, but it didn't have to be. When something's working, keep doing it. Run it again. And they did with Jackson Arnold, and I think beat a pretty good, pretty physical team. And you look at that yards rushing discrepancy, and that's my holy grail, is when I go to the rushing numbers. You can cover up. Of course, the final score is the most telltale thing from a box score, but if you cover up that final score and I go to that rushing number, I promise 75% every year in the SEC, and it's usually around 78, 79, 80. And you saw it last Friday night in Waco.
All right, so let's talk about Ole Miss and Kentucky. And I know it was just 60 minutes, and it was against Georgia State. 695 yards of offense. Austin Simmons, 341, 3 touchdowns. You're going up against a Kentucky team. They have not won a home SEC game since September the 30th of 2023. They're 0-7 in their last 7 games inside Commonwealth Stadium. Just your thoughts about this game, and could there be a hangover from last year, or is that the motivation that Ole Miss needs this week to go up there and take care of business?
Well, it's motivation from the coaching staff. Some to a lot of the players really didn't experience. Some did, but a lot didn't, and we know what that cost Ole Miss. As a 16-point home favorite, losing to Kentucky, a Kentucky team that went 4-8, a Kentucky team with the quarterback, that's about the only time he played good in his college career, and they inflicted that misery on Ole Miss that cost Ole Miss going to the playoffs and cost a chance, I really believe, to my last breath, I'll believe, a deep run, so a chance to really make noise in said playoffs. Instead of that one, really put Ole Miss behind the rest of the year. Now a heavy favorite on the road against them, against Calzada. It's got one good college game. And that's another thing about the Alabama game. Here's when we know it'll be frightening, is when Alabama loses on the road and they don't rush the field. Whenever you get into that, we are into very different Alabama territory. But last year, back to the Ole Miss-Kentucky game last year, that was the single worst Ole Miss SEC loss at home in its football history for what it cost. And now we're setting to where, feel like can really avenge that. And it will start with Austin Simmons. He was really good last week. Had 2 interceptions. One really wasn't his fault, but otherwise I think played very well. Even the interceptions, you're just going to have to live with a little bit. That was his first college start. That's not that bad a thing. The defense kind of bailed him out, but it'll be a lot better competition this week on the road against Kentucky.
Brett, we got to talk about LSU. What an impressive win for Brian Kelly and the Tigers, going to Death Valley, I guess 2.0, if you will, for us here in SEC country. But getting that win, did LSU answer any questions that you had entering the season?
I think they did. I think they're really nastier than we even thought they might be on defense, and that's where it's been lacking in the Brian Kelly years. They went out and did what they had to do with portal acquisitions and paying the money to beef up there with staff and everything else they've done on defense. But I really liked what Garrett Nussmeier did and how calm he was down the last portion of that game. You lay Klubnik and Nussmeier's stats, they look almost identical. They're almost a Xerox copy of each other. But Nussmeier made, I think, a few more elusive plays, kind of getting away from pressure a little better than Klubnik did. And that's a win that's going to hold up all year for LSU. Any doubters about the SEC, and that's another funny thing. I've always said the fairest criticism of the SEC is we don't bat 1,000, but we're really, really good. And you look at those games last weekend, what does everybody want to talk about? They want to talk about the 2 losses.
Yeah, 14-2. And they want to talk about how Alabama is dead and Arch Manning's a horrible quarterback. So go figure.
And Pat, it goes to show we know in basketball, Kentucky carries the flag for the league. And Alabama has, will, and forever will carry the football flag. And when they look a little bit dinged up and a little bit weaker, then everybody naturally from the rest of the, maybe even in the conference, but from the rest of the country, they look at the SEC as a little gettable.
You know, I'm just really jealous the kind of week you've had. You spent 3 days in St. Louis going to baseball games. You're heading to the Louisville Slugger Museum. You're also going to go see the Museum of Muhammad Ali there in Louisville. And then you're going to head over to and watch football this weekend between Ole Miss and Kentucky. That is a great week, my friend.
It has been a pretty good week. This is my vacation. I promise you, this is what I've been planning all year. Look, all the people that enjoy the beach, go to it, have fun. Too much sand, too much sun. I can get sunburned in a walk-in meat locker. So I don't want too much time in the sun. The golf has been over. It hurts too bad, takes too long, and costs too much. This has been my vacation, and it's been great so far. Well,
we always appreciate you joining us each and every Thursday. It should be a really good game. Hopefully, it'll be a good game. It'll be competitive between the two, between Kentucky and Ole Miss. Always is, especially it's a road game.
Yeah, I think it will be. And, boy, in the South, we just think we grow soybeans and corn. This corn across Illinois and Indiana, I've never seen anything like it.
There's a lot of it. All right, before we let you go, you've got to bring us your weekly I Ain't Scared bold prediction. You went bold you went bold last week. And you were not far off. That was an ugly game.
No, but I missed.
That's fine.
Gosh, that quarterback play for Virginia Tech was driving me crazy during that game. It was there for Virginia Tech to win that game. They didn't. I lost. Now, this is not a straight-up upset by any means. I'm taking the gob of points, and it's 37.5 points. I'm taking Louisiana Tech to make it a late third-quarter game at LSU, a little hangover effect, no pun intended, at Tiger Stadium. They had to expend a lot of energy against Clemson, playing little brother, Louisiana Tech. I think Louisiana Tech gets way in under that 37.5 number.
All right.
Wow. He went Louisiana Tech.
Not straight up, though. Not even close. But just all those points. They go. If Vegas gives them, take them.
Absolutely.
What conference are they in again? Conference USA?
Yeah.
They are.
I'm just trying to find the depth chart, see if I recognize one player from their roster.
And everybody rages them every year in the portal. I mean, Sun Belt and CUSA, it is Cannonball Express after all those players.
Trey Kukuk is your quarterback.
Okay.
You familiar with him?
Well, not that, but yeah. All I say is be real careful at pronunciation.
Yeah. We had a long discussion about Auburn's Australian punter.
Yep. Be really careful.
Yeah, you got to be careful.
Yeah, especially Landrum.
Yes, especially me. Yep.
Always be careful and make sure that delay button's working, Conrad.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's a whole nother conversation, Brett.
All right, Brett. Hey, safe travels, and I'll talk to you later this afternoon, and I look forward to it.
You bet. Have a great week and enjoy the game.
All right. Thanks Brett. Brett Norsworthy, one of our favorite guests of the week on this program. You can listen to him weekday afternoons on WHBQ Radio in Memphis, and also part of the Ole Miss pre- and post-game show on the Ole Miss Radio Network. We do have some news out of Auburn, Alabama. When we come back, we'll tell you about one of Auburn's top players will not be available for Ball State this week. Not that it's going to matter, but it could, be something to keep your eye on in the future. That's next on Three Man Front. Kentucky and Ole Miss gets the SEC schedule started this weekend. Should be a lot of fun. Those two schools. It's been a long time since Kentucky has won an SEC home game. September 30th of 2023 against Florida. That was the last time they won. They're going to have to try to do that against Ole Miss. I was telling you a little bit of news coming out of Auburn, and it appears that Auburn is going to be without Damari Alston this weekend. He will not play against Ball State. The senior sustained a shoulder injury in last week's 38-24 win at Baylor. It did not appear to be a significant injury, but Alston still had very limited participation in practice this week. So let's just be honest, there's no reason for him to play against Ball State. So junior Jeremiah Cobb will get the start, and a couple of newcomers should be added opportunities in the backfield for Auburn. So the headline, Damari Alston, he is out this week due to a shoulder injury for the Auburn Tigers, so he will not play against the Cardinals of Ball State.
Yeah, based on offensive line and your opponent, you could probably go walk-on route. I guess they still have walk-ons.
feel like might get a pretty good look at Omar Madsen this weekend.
Yeah, he did not play last week.
Correct. Yeah.
That's a good one, Conrad. Who was the kid for Auburn that you coached in baseball that was a walk-on that played running back? He was a heftier guy. Was his last name Jackson?
Sean Jackson.
Sean Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sure was. Sean was an incredible athlete. Him and just even back when he was 5-6 years old, he was just an incredible athlete. Also, UConn transfer Darrell Robinson is someone that could get some carries this weekend for Auburn.
He had a couple of meaningful carries in that game versus Baylor.
Yep. Mavson's the one that in preseason camp, a lot of people, and I know Hugh Freeze mentioned him multiple times, how well he was doing.
One thing that I was impressed with, and it's only 1 week, and they could make me look foolish this week or moving forward, but Auburn's ball carriers and how they protected the football. A lot of times it was textbook, 2 arms wrapped around the ball, which makes sense. I heard this, and I think this came from UAB staff, but something that they've been teaching running backs, and this is a new coach that came in, but teaching running backs, and what he's telling running backs, if you're the one who initiates, if you're the aggressor as the ball carrier, and you're initiating contact, a lot of times it's hard to lose a football or to have one stripped. That makes sense if you think about it.
Yep.
If you're the aggressor, you're bracing for impact, you're going to hang on to the football as opposed to somebody else initiating that. That's out there for all of you Weekend Warrior football coaches. You want to implement that with your kids that are putting the ball on the ground too much. You're welcome.
The things you do for the community. We appreciate that.
I try to give back when I can. Speaking of giving back, is Lane, you think Lane has circled this game?
Oh, yeah. Are you kidding me?
It's kind of like Alabama and Vanderbilt, right?
Are you kidding me? Going up against Zach Calzada?
What if Calzada does it?
I bet it's a fun week for Pete Golding.
Did you realize that Zach Calzada threw for 85 yards last week against Toledo?
I thought that was how many pounds he put on this offseason.
That would have been a better guess.
And he was intercepted.
What?
By Toledo. But he did have a rushing touchdown against the Rockets.
Was anyone chasing him?
Poor Zach. He does have that win against Alabama, though.
Yeah.
Thank you, Pat.
Just want to remind you.
Oh, we continue. 4th hour, 3-man front. You're next.